All right, Raider Nation, let's dive into it, and I mean really dive in, because this latest 53-man roster projection for the Las Vegas Raiders is easily one of the most intriguing we've seen in recent years. There's drama, there's hype, there's heartbreak, and above all, there's competition in just about every corner of this team. Whether you've been glued to every moment of training camp or you're just tuning in now, there's a lot to unpack. This projection doesn't just shake things up. It tells a story of where the Raiders are heading in this new chapter post-Wilkins and post-draft. And what we're starting to see is a shift in priorities, a shift in play style, and a roster that's beginning to take on a whole new identity under this regime. Let's start at quarterback because let's be real, that's where the fire always burns hardest. A lot of folks have been debating this, wondering if there's a battle brewing for that QB1 spot, and I'm just going to say it straight, this is still Geno Smith's team. Period. There's been chatter about it, Aiden O'Connell pushing for that top spot. And yeah, he's shown why people are high on him as one of the more reliable backups in the league. He's got poise, he's got presence, and when things go sideways, he's a guy you can trust to steady the ship. And Cam Miller, the rookie drafted in the 6th, the kid's got potential, no doubt. But when it comes to who's steering this offense, it's Geno. The staff's committed to him. The locker room sees him as the guy. So if you're keeping count, those are your 3 quarterbacks making the cut. No surprises, just solid depth and a clear pecking order. Now the running back room, this is where it starts to get real spicy. 4 names seem to be locking things down: Ashton, Jeanty, Raheem, Mostert, Sincere McCormick, and Zamir White. Jeanty brings a spark, that kind of relentless energy every team wants in a young back. Mostert gives you the vet speed and savvy. Sincere. McCormick has shown real growth. A player who looks like he belongs. But it's the battle for that final spot that's kept eyes glued to the practice field. Dylan Laub was in the mix early on, and Chris Collier had flashes, but it's clear the coaching staff is starting to gravitate towards Zeus, Zamir White. He's trimmed down looks faster, and more importantly seems determined to carve out a bigger role in the offense. You can just tell he's doing everything in his power to stay relevant in a crowded room. And when one guy's trending upward while the others are slipping further down the depth chart, the decision becomes clearer. Laub might still find a path to the practice squad, but as far as the main 53 goes, Zamir is in. Let's move on to wide receiver, a position that's both deep in raw talent and full of tough calls. Here's the thing, the Raiders are likely to keep 5 wideouts, which makes every spot count that much more. And look, Alex Bachman's name keeps floating around. He's had a great camp, no doubt. Reliable hands, crisp routes, and a real knack for the slot. If the Raiders chose to carry 6 receivers, he'd probably be in. But when you're balancing the roster, sometimes you gotta make tough choices. And in this case, that means keeping Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams, Trey Tucker, Jack Beck, and Tommy Mellott. Now, Mellett's not the most polished guy in the field right now. He's still adjusting to NFL speed, still working out the timing and the chemistry. But the raw athleticism is there and the ceiling is high. The staff sees it. He's one of those players who, once things click, could really explode. Bachman might be the safer play today, but this projection is about potential as much as production. So Mellott stays, Bachman's out. For now. Let's talk tight ends. In previous versions of this roster, there were 4. That's changed. Why? Because of what we've seen in training camp. The offensive sets are showing a strong lean toward 11 personnel. 3 wideouts, 1 tight end, 1 back. That changes the math. When you're only running 1 tight end on the majority of your snaps, you don't need 4 on the roster. That said, the 3 that are sticking around, they're as good as any trio in the league. Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, Ian Thomas. That group gives you everything. Vertical threats, red zone mismatches, inline blocking, and short yardage reliability. It's not just that they're talented, it's how they complement each other. Bowers is the dynamic playmaker. Mayer is the all-around grinder, and Thomas has quietly become a rock-solid depth piece who can block and catch. Honestly, name me a better top 3. I'll wait. Moving on to the trenches, the offensive line. If there's one thing this front office seems to value consistently, it's depth and versatility on the O-line. We've seen a lot of movement here during Camp JPJ battling, Jordan Meredith stepping up, and positional battles everywhere you look. They added Antonio Mafi recently, but based on what we've seen, he's not likely to crack the final cut. The core group has stayed pretty consistent across most projections, and this one's no different. The Raiders keep 9 offensive linemen, which brings us to 24 players on offense. That means we're loading up a little more in defense. And if you've been watching the way this roster's been built, that shift makes a whole lot of sense. Why? Well, it starts with what's happened to the defensive line. With Christian Wilkins no longer in the building, everything changes. He was a cornerstone piece, and losing him forced his team to rethink how they're building up front. So let's go to the edge. Max Crosby is a lock. He's the face of the defense, a relentless motor that just does not stop. Malcolm Kuntz, he's been flashing more and more, a guy who looks ready to take the next step. Tyree Wilson still has some questions around him, but the potential is off the charts. Charles Snowden might have flown under the radar for some, but he's carved out a spot. Tall, rangy, disruptive, exactly what you want on the edge. That's your fall. Inside, it gets even more interesting. With Wilkins gone, it's up to Adam Butler, Janarius Liu, and Nesta Jade Silvera, Lucky Fotu to step up. And they've done exactly that during camp. Those three have been the most consistent interior linemen so far. You also drafted Tonka Hemingway and JJ Peggs, and you don't spend draft capital on guys you don't plan to develop. So they're in. Then there's Zach Carter, who might have been a fringe guy before. But given how things have shifted, he now becomes part of the 6-man rotation inside. One dark horse name to keep an eye on, Keandre Coburn. He's massive. We're talking about a guy who eats up space clogs lanes and could absolutely push for snaps if he continues to show out. He's the direct Wilkins replacement, and while he's not the same caliber yet, the tools are all there. Now to linebackers, and this room is absolutely fascinating. Top 3 are locked. Jermaine Pratt, Ellendon Roberts, Devin White. That's a group that brings toughness, speed, and leadership. But here's where it gets complicated. The Raiders only kept 6 linebackers in this projection. Last year, they kept 7. That means someone had to go. Cody Lindenberg, the rookie, is staying. No question. Their staff drafted him, they believe in him, and they've already started molding him into a contributor. So the tough decision came down to 3 names: Tommy Eichenberg, Jamal Adams, and Amari Gaynor. Only 2 were going to make it. And unfortunately, Gaynor didn't make the cut. That one hurts. He's a player you root for, he's shown flashes, and he absolutely belongs in this league. But Adams has the versatility and the coaching staff connection, and Eichenberg has been running with the ones at camp. That tells you everything. If the staff is willing to put a guy with the first team multiple times, they're giving him a real look. And when push came to shove, it was Amari Gaynor who ended up on the outside looking in. Cornerback room, another tough puzzle. The Raiders have clearly been experimenting more with safeties playing in nickel roles, and that changes how you structure the depth chart. Still 5 corners made the list. Eric Stokes, Darian Porter, and Cameron Richardson are the top 3 right now. That's based on reps performance and what we're hearing from camp. Jacorian Bennett has fallen down the depth chart a bit, but he still makes the cut. Darnay Holmes is the 5th, and though some people might debate that final spot, Holmes brings value, especially when you factor in nickel responsibilities. But don't sleep on Greedy Vance. The undrafted rookie out of USC has been making noise lately, and Pete Carroll himself called him out as someone standing out in padded practices. That's not something you hear every day. He's one to watch. And if someone slips, he could sneak onto this roster by the end of camp. At safety, you've got Jeremy Chin and Isaiah Polamau holding it down. Those guys bring versatility and range. Jamal Adams is technically listed here too, though as we've seen, he could end up spending more time in the box or even as a true linebacker. Lonnie Johnson Jr. is in the mix, and Thomas Harper has looked solid in nickel situations. But the name that really caught attention, Trey Taylor. Word out of camp is that he's been one of the most consistent performers in recent practices, both on defense and special teams. That last part matters. As a gunner, he's outperformed expectations. And when roster spots are tight, special teams value can tip the scales. It certainly did here. Trey Taylor makes a team, and honestly, he earned it. To wrap it all up, the specialists remain unchanged. Daniel Carlson, A.J. Cole, and Jacob Bobenmoyer. One of the best special teams trios in the league. No drama, no surprises. And look, I've done a lot of these roster projections over the years. Like a lot. And every time there's someone I leave off who probably deserved a spot, someone fans get mad about. This time, it's Amari Gaynor and Alex Bachman. Those are the 2 I struggled with the most. But when you're building a roster for the long haul, not just for week 1. These are the tough calls you gotta make. When you look at this Raiders roster projection, it's clear that beyond the surface, the coaching staff and front office are navigating a complex web of talent potential and positional philosophy. The decisions that led to this particular group of 53 players are as much about who fits the scheme as who can adapt and grow within the organization's vision. What's fascinating is the subtle but significant ways this roster hints at the Raiders' strategic pivot, a pivot from raw power and brute force to speed, versatility, and adaptability. Consider the quarterback room once again, but not just from the perspective of the starters. Geno Smith's role here is pivotal because he's not just a player, he's the stabilizing force for this offense. His experience, his ability to command the huddle, and his knowledge of the playbook provide a foundation for the coaching staff to build around. Behind him, the presence of Aiden O'Connell and Cam Miller reflects a deliberate investment in this future. O'Connell's calm in the pocket and Miller's athleticism mean that the Raiders are hedging their bets on a progression model that rewards smart decision-making and improvisational skill. It's a subtle message the Raiders want quarterbacks who can think quickly, adjust on the fly, and keep defenses guessing. Transitioning to the running back group, it's important to see more than just who's on the roster. Each back brings a distinct flavor to the ground game. Ashton Jeanty represents the all-purpose runner who can change the rhythm of the offense with his explosive ability to break tackles and turn small openings into big gains. Raheem Mostert, on the other hand, is the veteran who brings situational awareness, especially on third downs and in passing situations, providing a dual threat option that keeps defenses honest. Sincere McCormick is the workhorse who embodies grit and determination, the kind of back who wears down defenses with a steady diet of carries. Then there's Zamir White, who exemplifies potential that's raw but tantalizing. His trajectory is upward, a story of transformation as he trims weight, builds speed, and hones his vision. The fact that White edged out other candidates to claim a spot speaks volumes about how much the coaching staff values potential growth and raw physical traits that can be refined. The running back room isn't just about depth, it's about having a stable of different skill sets that can be deployed in any situation to keep opponents off balance. The wide receiver group, often the crown jewel of an offense, also reveals a layered approach. The decision to keep 5 wideouts rather than an extended group is a nod toward efficiency. Jacoby Myers and Davante Adams are the clear stars, the focal points of the passing attack. Adams, with his elite route running and reliable hands, commands the respect of any secondary, while Myers offers speed and agility to stretch the field. Trey Tucker and Jack Beck are intriguing pieces because they blend youth and special teams value, plus they provide versatility in multiple receiver roles. Then there's Tommy Mellett, whose inclusion signals faith in developmental upside. He's not polished yet, but his athletic profile and flashes in camp hint at a future starter if he continues to refine his craft. This balance of established talent and raw upside is a blueprint for a dynamic receiving core that can adapt week to week based on matchups and game plans. Tight ends, often the unsung heroes, receive a spotlight here through the lens of modern offensive trends. The decision to carry only 3 tight ends underscores a move away from heavy sets and toward faster, more spread formations. Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, and Ian Thomas offer a trifecta of skills that combine blocking, route running, and red zone threat. Bowers is the athletic freak with the ability to turn short routes into touchdowns. Mayer brings a blend of toughness and reliable hands that is indispensable in mid-range passing schemes. Thomas serves as a dependable all-arounder who can block and catch without drawing too much attention, but doing all the little things that make a difference. This trio not only fits the Raiders' offensive philosophy, but also ensures that the team isn't weighed down by redundancy at the position. The offensive line, always a linchpin for success, reflects a deep investment in versatility and durability. The coaching staff's willingness to juggle players like JPJ and Jordan Meredith signals a fluidity in position assignments, where guards and tackles may slide in and out depending on game flow and injuries. The addition of Antonio Mafi, although not making the final roster, highlights the competitive environment that pushes every player to maximize their potential. Carrying 9 offensive linemen means the Raiders are prepared for the grind of a long season, ready to weather injuries and keep a consistent push in the run game on pass protection. It's a calculated risk, depth over star power, but one that aims to prevent the offensive line from becoming a weak link as the season wears on. On the defensive side, the shift after Christian Wilkins' departure is palpable. The defensive line has transitioned from relying on a single dominant interior presence to a more collective effort that emphasizes rotation, depth, and specialized roles. Max Crosby remains the unquestioned leader and heart of the defense. His relentless pass, rush, and motor set the tone for everyone. Alongside him, Malcolm Kuntz and Tyree Wilson bring different flavors of edge pressure. Kuntz with his blend of speed and power, Wilson with his upside and raw athleticism. Charles Snowden's presence adds length and disruptiveness, critical elements in today's NFL pass rush schemes. Inside, the trio of Adam Butler, Janarius Lew, and Nesta Jade Silvera has emerged as the new anchor, complemented by draft picks Tonka Hemingway and J.J. Peggs, who provide youth and upside. Zach Carter's inclusion further strengthens this interior. Rotation, and Keandre Coburn represents a wild card, a potential game changer if he continues to develop and harness his natural ability. This defensive line group emphasizes depth rotation and the idea that pressure can come from multiple fronts, not just a single star player. Linebackers form the core of the defense's reactionary force, and here the Raiders have built a mix of experience, speed, and youthful promise. Jermaine Pratt's leadership and tackling prowess set a standard, while Ellendon Roberts and Devin White bring complementary skill sets. Roberts with his coverage and run-stopping White with his speed and playmaking. The decision to keep 6 linebackers instead of 7 reflects a strategic move to allocate more roster spots elsewhere, perhaps on special teams or in secondary depth. The inclusion of Cody Lindenberg as a rookie is a sign of trust in the developmental pipeline. The tough cut of Amari Gaynor highlights the brutal reality of the NFL. Talented players sometimes have to make way for others who fit the system or roll better. Jamal Adams and Tommy Eichenberg, rounding out the group, indicate that the staff values versatility and fit over pure name recognition or previous accolades. The cornerback situation is equally intricate. The Raiders are experimenting with safety players in nickel roles, which shifts how many traditional corners they carry. Eric Stokes, Darren Porter, and Cameron Richardson are the pillars of the cornerback group, blending experience and athleticism. Jacorian Bennett's drop in the depth chart might raise eyebrows, but his inclusion signals that the staff still sees value in his skill set. Darnay Holmes provides depth and special teams contributions, which often tip the scales in roster decisions. The undrafted Greedy Vance's emergence as a camp standout is one of the more exciting stories, reflecting the Raiders' ability to spot and develop talent beyond the draft. His speed and instincts make him a player to watch, and his growth could force the staff to reconsider cornerback allocations before the final cuts. Safety is a position that demands both range and versatility in today's NFL, and the Raiders have structured their group accordingly. Jeremy Chin and Isaiah Polamau offer range and the ability to play deep or come down into the box as needed. Jamal Adams' role blurs the lines between safety and linebacker, bringing hybrid versatility that's highly valued. Lonnie Johnson Jr. and Thomas Harper provide solid depth and special teams contributions, rounding out a group that balances experience and athleticism. Trey Taylor's strong showing on special teams, particularly as a gunner, highlights how important these less glamorous roles are in roster construction. In a league where the margin between making the team and getting cut is razor-thin, special teams performance can be the deciding factor, and Taylor's consistency there has earned him a spot. The specialists, Daniel Carlson, A.J. Cole, and Jacob Bob and Moyer, remain some of the most reliable players on the team. Carlson's kicking accuracy, Cole's punting versatility, and Bob and Moyer's ability to control field position through coverage units form a trio that gives the Raiders a solid foundation in the hidden yardage battle. Their consistency provides a quiet but crucial edge that often goes unnoticed by fans but is revered by coaches. All these decisions, when viewed together, paint a picture of a Raiders team in transition, a team that respects its veterans but is unafraid to push younger players into bigger roles. The roster reflects a balance of proven performers and developmental projects, a blend that speaks to a front office and coaching staff with a long-term vision.